All right, guys, I'm doing another interview today, this time with Jovani, who got funded on Player Profit for $100,000 and was able to turn that into a massive $34,000 payout. I was able to get in contact with Jovani, hop on a call with him, and have him share some free game with you guys on how you can maybe also get funded on Player Profit. So I'm on the call right now with Jovani. How you doing today, Jovani?
Good. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Well, it's good to have you on the call. And, I just recently did another call with a guy who got a $32,000 payout. Your payout was for 34 grand. And it's really just good to see more and more people getting funded on Player Profit, more and more people kind of figuring out how it works, being able to leverage Player Profit's bankroll and, turn that into big payouts. I think what you've done is super impressive. And, anyone watching this has a lot to learn from you. And if they also want to get funded, I think a good place to start would maybe just be to share a little bit about your backstory, as much or as little as you want, how you got so good at picking winners, and just a little about your story leading up until where you are now.
Yeah, I started back, shoot, oh wait, when I was first started sports picking for about a decade, just for fun, recreational. It was nothing crazy. It was just something fun on the side. Love sports, love to find an edge, and that was just a way for me to try to find a way to win, watching pro athletes do their thing. So took a break after a while. Hectic schedule. It's hard to crunch numbers whenever you're doing that. So I recently, towards the end of last year, jumped back in to the space, and it's crazy how much the game has changed over such a short amount of time with being able to be funded for a bigger bankroll. So got introduced to Player Profit from a community, stat bets, and was like, holy cow, I mean, is this real? They're like, yeah, all right. All right, so I jumped in, gave it a shot, put my skills to the test.
And you've been doing sports for a long time, back in '08, and obviously in the past few years especially, it's gotten a lot more popular, enough so where there's firms that are willing to fund people with bankrolls, if they're good at this stuff. It's kind of a crazy, from where you started back in '08 till now, that's a pretty crazy transformation. So
Yeah,
you've been doing this for a while. And how old are you again?
I'm 35 now.
35. Okay. With all that work you've put into becoming good at this over the years, how does it feel like to be funded for 100K on Player Profit? Like, have that bankroll, be backed by them?
It's insane. It's a grind. For anybody that's doing it, it's a grind. Trying to make 20 units. I mean, you have the space, like we said, has changed so much, and with anything like social media, it gets flooded with people just trying to money grab at you. You're not making 100 units in a month, in a
Uh-huh.
week. Like it's not realistic. They put your skills to the test as a capper. So to be able to take those skills and be able to translate them on to being able to give a firm your picks and be like, this is what is good for the day, and seeing them trust you with that. I mean, you got to prove yourself, and then okay, now we trust you. Here's your bankroll. Go make some money for all of us, and it's awesome. Everybody wins.
Yeah, like you said, passing a Player Profit challenge is not easy. It's definitely doable, but this really isn't for people who are, oh, I'm going to get a free 100K bankroll to, start locking in, my picks. You really got to know what you're doing and got to be consistently profitable. Now, on that, being funded with a 100K bankroll, how does this go? Like explaining to your friends, your family, like telling people that you're funded, like how does it go explaining to people that you're funded for 100K on Player Profit?
Well, I'm in a different boat than most of your other interviews that I've been watching. I'm an older
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I got a family and stuff, so it's like, hey, we're making an extra 30 grand this month. Like
Hey,
it's
that'll do.
that changes the conversation real quick, being
Absolutely.
able to say, hey, here's a statement, it's legit money, and you're all you're doing is sports picking for a firm. You're just putting your skills just like any other thing. You do the work and you get paid for it. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
as long as they see it as, hey, I'm actually grinding and doing something and being productive, then they understand it.
Yeah, conceptually, if the idea is a little bit strange that you're funded with a bankroll, at the end of the day, when you're bringing home a $34,000 payout, who really cares? So that's awesome. So what are the main sports? Are there any sports that you stay away from? And what are some factors that help you decide where you're going to put your money for the day?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's whenever you're trying to find a sports pick, an edge is an edge. I try to stick to baseball right now. MLB is
Right.
huge, really big. Had a great UFC weekend this last weekend, and then whenever football season's here, it's pretty gung ho. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of good edges there. Basketball's hit or miss. NBA's been rough, but you have good days and bad days, and that's just what it is with the space. You just have to be able to play the edge and be able to survive the cold streak. And I think that's another thing with Player Profit. An advantage that it gives you is it forces you to manage your bankroll.
Hmm.
If you were to take the skills that you learned for any new, sports picker, if you take those skills you learn within Player Profit and take that to your outside bankroll, you're already gaining an advantage. So it not only gives you an opportunity to gain a bankroll, it forces you to learn the skills of what an actual sports picker capper is supposed to do.
Totally. Totally. It gives you that structure. Yeah. The guy who I interviewed just 2 days ago. He told me that he didn't even initially start to use player profit as a way thinking that he was going to make a bunch of money. He did it just because he liked the idea of seeing like big numbers, but not actually having to risk any of his own money. And then through using player profit, getting that structure, learning good bankroll management, and learning, failing a few accounts, not chasing his losses, he was able to become profitable. For when he first started out, he didn't really know what he was doing, and then turned that into a $32,000 payout. So,
And that's how it works. You take
yeah,
the skills you learn in anything you do, and player profit comes in, they set the parameters and they force you to play within those parameters, and that forces you to have to be able to manage your bankroll. And managing your bankroll, I mean, that's every capper's, every sports picker's biggest challenge, is being able to manage that bankroll. And we all go through cold streaks, we all go through hot streaks, and it's being able to weather those storms and being able to make the right decisions whenever we're trying to go fight through that cold one.
definitely. Now, before you got funded on player profit, and you've been doing this for a while, like you said, what was your typical unit size, before you were funded for 100K? Like, how much were you putting down per game?
I mean, back in the day when I was first doing it, 10, $50, was
Yeah.
a little different. Um, when I jumped back in recently this last month, it was about 50 to 100 per
Okay.
bet.
Yeah, that's solid. So now being funded for 100K and being able to put down, between 1,000 and $5,000 per pick, is that a pretty significant increase for you, especially considering that it's not your own money that you're risking?
It's insane. This last month, throwing in like a 30, I mean, quite, it was just short of 35K. Being able to take that in 30 days, never even been come close to that. It gives you an insane ability to be able to maximize your bankroll for your skill and being able to get rewarded for that. And it's awesome to be able to team up with a company like Player Profit to be able to make this happen. Just, it's great.
It's not that your skill changes at all. You're really just increasing your unit size. You'd go up the same units, whether you're betting 10 to $50 or 1,000 to 5,000. You're just able to make way more money taking the exact same bets that you're already winning at.
Yep, it's just getting paid for your skill, and it's awesome. I mean, who can complain with an extra 30 grand?
Absolutely. Now, obviously, as we talked about before, getting funded is not easy. When you first started using Player Profit, did you find success right away, or did it take you a few tries, failing a few accounts to get to that funded phase?
Oh, absolutely not. I failed a few times. But I understand there's a risk reward, right? In hindsight, looking back at what I have now, getting paid 34, almost 35 grand, I could have taken that test 30 plus times. If I
Mhm.
passed it once, got funded and got this check, I still would have made a profit. So it's a
Absolutely.
no-brainer to try again. Now, if you're making the same mistakes, for those people that have failed multiple times, you're making the same mistakes, hitting that max daily drawdown, hitting the max drawdown. You have to kind of reassess what you're doing and kind of get in there and figure out the strategy that you're implementing, and you got to tweak it. But I did. I failed a few times and kept grinding, and finally caught my hot streak. Got back in the groove after a few years of a hiatus, and here I am.
That's good to hear. And I from everyone who I've talked to who's gotten a big payout, who's gotten funded for $100,000, almost all of them have failed multiple accounts before they were able to get funded. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people who are good at this do. They go on there, they try it once, and they fail. Whereas obviously someone like you, who's very skilled and has the ability to get funded, if you would have given up on your first try, you wouldn't have been able to, get funded for 100K and turn that into a $32,000 payout. Like you said, it's kind of a mathematical no-brainer where if you fail the account, you lose a little bit on the testing fees a couple times. The amount of bankroll that you get access to and the upside potential is still totally worth it.
It's great. I was able to take the winnings, and then you got to reinvest. I mean, I know that I'm not gonna be able to stay on that forever, so just get a couple more accounts, prep them, get them ready. So I think I got like three more 100K accounts in phase two already, ready to just grinding away, so that if something were to happen, then we can just
Absolutely.
keep grinding.
Yeah, you don't have to get funded and get a 32K payout on every single account in order to be profitable long term. Yeah. So again, what you've done is super impressive. And a lot of people that are going to be watching this are looking up to you and going to want to replicate the same success that you've had on Player Profit. So if there were some key points of advice that you could give to those people who are maybe newcomers or maybe who are, have failed a couple of accounts previously and want to get the same success as you, what would be some of those key points?
Number one, you're gonna fail. We all fail. We all hit a cold streak, but you got to be able to keep grinding. Number two, player profit lays out the parameters for you. 10% a day, you can't lose it, and then 50% overall. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You gotta grind every day. Find your games with your best edge and just play those. It's if you plan on getting funded in a week, you're probably gonna lose that bankroll and lose
Yeah.
that challenge. So my advice is Plan for it to take you 60 days. If you can plan that and get that in your head and get that mindset, then you're working in the long game and you're already half the battle's right there. Is just understanding that it's a grind. Other than that, try again. You got to try again to keep going. If you fail, you got to try again, and you got to be able to assess how you failed, why you failed, and make
Definitely.
those adjustments.
Definitely, yeah. And you bringing up that player profit lays out the rules for you. I think, bringing up the 10% daily drawdown, that's a big thing too. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's a 10% daily drawdown. It can be frustrating to see people who are risking more than 10% of their bankroll in a day. If you just don't risk more than 10% of your bankroll, that's one of the easiest ways to avoid not failing the account, and
Yep.
same thing with the inactivity timer. As a 5-day inactivity timer, you don't have to lock in 5 or 10 picks a day. You can just find the ones that you have an edge on. And like you said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time and get those consistent profits instead of those quick profits and up and down too much.
Yep. In the end, it's a sports pick, and it doesn't matter if it's UFC or as soon as that cage closes up, anything can happen. You got two men or women going at it.
Yeah.
Basketball, someone can get hurt, injured. Any sport, baseball, you can have just someone just has a pitcher has a bad day, and so
Uh-huh.
you just have to understand that there's no such thing as a guaranteed lock. So
Yeah.
throwing your entire bankroll on one pick it's insane. So again, player profit, amazing. The way they set up the parameters and force you to actually to implement rules on how to manage your bankroll. It's not only cool or great to get that big payout, it's awesome to be able to afford people an opportunity to actually learn how to manage a bankroll.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's some really good advice. And I really appreciate you coming on this call today and sharing a ton of free value for anyone who's watching this right now. And again, a huge congratulations on that $34,000 payout, or I guess it was almost 35 grand, I guess.
Yeah.
So big congratulations on that. You're obviously good at this. And I would imagine this won't be our last time talking, 'cause like you said, you have more 100K accounts cooking up. You're ready to get some more big payouts. So I'd imagine this won't be our last time talking. So I really, really appreciate you coming on.
No problem, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for coming on and sharing that. And thanks again. All right, boys. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jovani. I know it was one of my favorite interviews that I've done. I think Jovani really had a ton of valuable information for anyone who is looking to replicate his success on Player Profit. Not only was that one of my best interviews that I've done with a funded user on Player Profit, but I think it's one of the best pieces of content for anyone who wants to get funded on Player Profit to watch, because Jovani really gives you a no BS approach on exactly what he did in order to get funded and in order to get that big $34,000 payout. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't make it sound super easy. He doesn't make it sound like you're going to be able to do this in the next week. He obviously knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a while, and he broke down exactly what you need to do in order to get funded on Player Profit. So if you boys enjoyed that interview, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep posting more Player Profit content, keep doing interviews with people who get big payouts. And at the end of the day, I'm going to keep posting videos about Player Profit and keep posting videos that are going to help you find more success using it. I hope you boys enjoyed this video. And if you're someone who's also gotten funded on Player Profit and gotten a big payout, I would love to interview as well. You can send me an email at playerpmarcus@gmail.com, and I'd love to interview you and feature you right here on this channel.